Alrighty, here we are again after dinner or lunch. It was really good, by the way.
It was really good.
So what we're going to do now is Mom's going to continue from her here, and she's also going to talk about her children and her grandchildren and just share a few more things along those lines for right now.
Okay, first I'll show them this picture.
Okay.
Let's
You might want to
see.
bring it closer.
Okay. This is a picture of my mother. This
See, this is the eyeball of it. So
okay. This
yeah,
is
that's
Mom.
much better.
This is Aunt Carrie. She's the one I went and visited and candled eggs for. This is my...
What is candled eggs?
Oh, you put a light to see that there's no blood spots, that the egg isn't impregnated.
Okay.
And this is my Aunt Melva, and she was the one that Mama would take us down to Gunnison to see all the time, and she had a son named Donald who was my age, and it was Donald that started dating one of my real girlfriends, and I went with all of his boyfriends. And this is Aunt Camille. She is the one that was the baby when my mother's mother died.
Good.
Let's see.
Just a little bit more of a look at those. Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is my sister Nancy and my brother
Bring
Robert.
Bring it up.
And this was the basement that was built into the home that we lived in before we moved to the store. This is kind of a fun picture because this is a picture of a milk separator. And I remember when we were living in that adobe 2-story home, we had a cow named Steenie, and Robert would always go out and yodel and milk her and bring the milk in, and then I ran the separator. This was the separator that separated the milk from the cream. So when I found this separator down at Gunlock in southern Utah, I had to have a picture taken of it because that was one of my memories in that adobe house, is me running the milk separator.
You look a lot like Cindy in that picture.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's see. This is a picture of the Manti North
Okay, you're gonna have
board.
to have this is the eyeball right here.
Oh, that I can't tell.
So you just put it up. So.
Well, no, this is the Manti North
sorry.
Ward.
I thought we were.
That's the ward house I attended until I was married, except when I was off to college. And it had a beautiful stained glass window here in the front that's going to be put in the Manti Heritage House when it gets built. And this is the Manti Temple,
All right.
which played such an important part of my life. And one of the things I didn't mention is that...
And then you talked about when you were baptized, you went clear up into that little...
Yes, I went right up into this part right here.
Okay.
And then, as I was growing up, why, they had me come and do baptisms for the dead all the time. And they said that I was the best person they could call on to do baptisms for the dead. And so I did hundreds of names in the Manti Temple for the dead.
Awesome.
When I was a junior in high school, I had problems with my throat, just really, really bad. And we finally discovered that it was my tonsils. One day I went in and my throat was so sore, and I pressed on my throat like this, and I could feel pus bags jumping out. And my mother put a spoon against it, and indeed it was. And we went to the doctors, and he said, indeed, my tonsils were just a bag of infection. And I had been sick. I had been having all kinds of problems. There wasn't a system in my body that didn't have a problem with it. And that was when they discovered that my thyroid wasn't working, and I almost lost my hair, and all of these problems. And so the doctor decided that he'd better take out what tonsils I had left. And they couldn't use ether because they knew I'd lose my hair because of the problems I was having. And so he tried to numb it as much as he could by putting needles through. And then he dug out my tonsils, and oh, that was so horrible. I was a junior in high school, and I was so sick, and it was so sore, and really the shots didn't help much, so it was just a nightmare, and I had nightmares for years about having my tonsils out. But there were so many things that went wrong with me because of this infection that had spread all the way through my body, that as a young lady growing up, I had menstrual periods that would last 28 days and then start again. And so I was always anemic and getting vitamin B shots, and they were trying to figure out what they could do to help me. But after I married Burton, I had some real bad episodes, and I went to see a Dr. Hall in Salt Lake City, and he did a dilation and curement, and that took care of that problem completely. And we were wanting a child, and so we did everything that we could to have a baby. And I finally got pregnant, and we had our first baby. She was 12 days late, and the doctor had to start me. And it was she was 10 pounds and 1 ounce, born 12 days late. And the doctor did have to start me. She was the biggest baby in the hospital for about 13 hours. And so that was my first baby, and we named her Leah Ann. Leah after Burton's mother, Leah. And I really enjoyed being a mother. I had been teaching high school and gotten pregnant while I was teaching high school. And it really worked out nicely because I could talk to the girls about being pregnant and that it wasn't something that you were sick over, because I never missed a day of school because of the pregnancy. And
of course, that's before you had a granddaughter, Cindy, and a granddaughter, Tricia, who don't have pregnancies that easy.
Yeah, it was not a hard pregnancy. The only problem is my legs were really bad, and I had to wear heavy bandages around my legs as I got further along because the veins were so bad, and my back gave me a lot of problems. I had to wear a corset. But I really enjoyed having a baby and sewing for her, and she was a good baby. She had a lot of colic because I didn't produce enough milk, and so when she was 3 years old, I started giving her a bottle.
You nursed her till she was 3?
3 months old.
Oh, you said 3 years.
Oh. I'm tired. 3 months old. But I didn't have really good milk. And she was such a big baby. So we had to give her essence of Caroid to make her so that she wasn't so colicky. And when I started giving her a bottle, then the milk was much easier to get out of the bottle, and she was ravenous. And so I was only able to really continue nursing her until she was about 6 months old, because she was a heavy eater and seemed to prefer the bottle. But when I was, let's see, about the time I stopped nursing her, I got pregnant again.
With me?
And, yeah.
I'm just looking. It looks like we've got just about 7 more minutes before we're going to take off. What I was wondering is maybe it'd be nice for you to carry through with Leah and kind of follow that thread through, and then you can pick up with me.
Oh, okay. A child at a time?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Leah Ann was a very independent child. She couldn't walk. Her feet were kind of pigeon-toed, and when she was a year old, we got her some little high-top shoes that had an insole put into it that made her feet so they were more level. And I had to put bars between her feet when she slept at night.
And that was the same as Bart.
Yes, it was the same thing with Bart. And then Leah got so that she could walk just fine. and her, with putting these special bars between her legs, and they'd clamp onto the shoes, and she'd sleep in her shoes and turn them outward. Why then, it took care of the leg problems. She never had any leg problems after this was corrected. Leanne was a very independent child. She always was independent all of her life. She had a mind of her own. She knew what she wanted, and she knew what she wanted to do, and she pretty much did it. And she was so independent. But when we moved to the house on McClelland, she had a little girl next door that she was very friendly with, and she was 2.5. When she and Donita were such good friends. Only she couldn't say Donita, so she was said Danyam. And they were such cute little friends, and they had a good time together. And then when we moved to California, why, her birthday being on the 9th of October, it was too late to go to school in the Salt Lake area. But in California, in Bakersfield, she got to start kindergarten a year before she would have in Utah. And she learned to read in kindergarten. She was just really smart. But Leanne liked clothes. And I remember the first day of kindergarten, I always made really cute clothes for the girls, and they did have a lot of cute clothes, but I hadn't made a bunch of outfits for Leanne to start school because she had some cute little dresses. And she came home at the first day of school, and I could tell something was bothering her. And I said, "What is the matter?" And she said, "Well, Karen got 5 new dresses that her grandmother made for her to start school." And I felt so bad because she had started in her Christmas dress, and it was a real cute little dress, a real dressy little dress. But she didn't have brand new clothes to start school, so that night I went out and got material, and I made her a little circular skirt, and then took a piece of the material and put on a plain color material, and made a little design up here on the side of it and put little rhinestones on it. And she went to school the next day just as happy as a lark. But she always did like clothes, and she wanted to have new clothes, and she wanted to look her best. And she had the most beautiful curly hair. When she was a year old, we were on TV on Julie's show, and everyone commented what a beautiful child she was. Curly blonde hair. And through kindergarten and starting school, why, she had this beautiful hair, but she didn't like to sit still for me to, make ringlets around my fingers and all. And so when she started first grade, we cut her hair short because she just didn't have the patience to let me fix her hair every day. And it was shortly after that we moved back to Utah. And in Utah, she wouldn't have been able to go to school at all because they only had summer kindergarten. So I went to the school, it was Granger Elementary School, and talked to Cy Holmes, who was the principal, and said, "Now look, she's had a whole year of kindergarten, and for her to sit home this whole year when she just missed the deadline by such a short time just doesn't sound right to me." And he said, "Well, I will let you put her in the first grade, and she can try it a few days and see what the teacher says." Well, the teacher was Velois Atkins, who was later our neighbor in Granger. And I went after the first day and said, "How does it look? Is she fitting in okay?" And she said, "Good grief, that child is reading." And so they let her stay. And so she was always a year ahead in school than most of the kids. It made it so that there was a year that separated Patty and Leanne, even though there was only 13 months between them. But Leanne did well in school and was a very good student. And I remember when she was in Mr. Cook's room, why, he would tell me how smart she is, but she always had a book behind her book. And he said he was always trying to catch her out because she was reading a book behind the school book. And he said he never could because she seemed to be able to read and hear him and have a two-track mind so that he could never catch her.
Uh-huh.
But she did very well in school, and then she went to Valley Junior High, and she had a good group of friends, and she became very interested in boys at that time. And I remember Bryce Albrechtson and Kevin Stedman, and she had some really good friends, and they ran together quite a bit, but we wouldn't let her date, of course, but she always managed
But she
to...
figured out how to take the window out.
She figured out, one other thing I should have mentioned is right after we moved into the house on Market Street, she did not want to be in a room with Patty and Cindy. She wanted her own room. So we took a big double blanket and curtained off a part in the basement so that she had her own room down in the basement because that's what she wanted. But when we built in the basement and she had a room in the basement, she figured out how to take the window out, and we'd crawl out the window and go and join Bryce and Kevin and some of these other kids. And they were good kids. And she managed to go and have a lot of fun.
And she had a few lessons that she learned when she drove the car.
Oh, well, that was right
early.
before she turned 16.
Oh, so we're not
Yeah.
there yet. We're still in junior high.
That's okay. We can skip to that because that was one of the major lessons. Leah Ann was a real good helper. I had gone back to teaching school, and she actually became the person who cooked supper an awfully lot, and that really did help me. But
The thing I remember more for meals a lot, which I love, and I still like to fix
we had
it.
a lot of hash. And
Yeah,
a lot
it
of
was
hominy
you cook the ground beef and add the onions, and then you add
hash.
the potatoes and stuff. So
But Leah Ann really did do a lot of cooking, and she was a good cook. She always has been, and still is, and a very excellent cook. There was something I was remembering. In high school, she was a year younger than most of the kids, and she wanted to drive, but we wouldn't let her drive. But actually it was an early evening, she had a friend named Carol Atkins, I think it was.
Atkinson, I think.
That we let Carol take the car because they needed to go someplace, and I don't even remember where it was or what it was about. But anyway, we let Carol take the car and told her that Carol's the only one that should drive the car. But a little while later, we found out that she had let Leah Ann drive, and Leah Ann was in an accident and did damage to another woman's car and a little damage to ours. But Leah Ann didn't have a driver's license. But Leah Ann had to go to work as soon as she was 16 to pay the $150 that was the deductible
Grocery
on this
store.
She went to work at a grocery store, Davis grocery store. And it really did teach her a good lesson that you have to obey the law. The woman tried to make it out like she was hurt worse than she was in the car accident. But it worked out okay, but it was probably a good lesson because Leah Ann learned that there are consequences when you don't obey the law or you don't do what you're supposed to.
So we're going to find out more about Leah because she's got a fascinating life. After we go hear this musician, pianist, composer, singer. So we'll talk to you a little bit later.